Hey there, I am TL Bainter and I'm holding in a fart. Today I'm going to talk about the second batch of episodes for The Legend of Vox Machina on Amazon Prime, episodes 4, 5, and 6. I can't count on my fingers. This batch of episodes is a significant improvement over the first 3 episodes. If you saw my review for episodes 1, 2, and 3 from last week, you know that I generally panned those episodes. I wasn't entirely satisfied with them, especially in regards to the appearance of the show. Some of the animations in the first couple of episodes in particular just didn't look all that great to me. It felt a bit like the product was unfinished or unpolished, and there were a lot of missing frames, particularly in episodes 1 and 2. Episode 2, I actually gave 2 stars, making it below average. Episode 1 got 3, episode 3 got 4. This next batch of episodes is far superior to anything that we saw in that previous batch. I had a couple of problems with the story in particular for this episode, and there's a couple of bits of humor that didn't land all that well, but overall, this second batch of episodes is a significant improvement over the first batch of episodes for The Legend of Vox Machina. So let's dive into my spoiler-free review of episodes 4, 5, and 6. We get a lot of running gags in this show, and not just running gags that are specific to the show itself, we also get running gags that are aligned with the original campaign for Critical Role. Some of the running gags are referencing things that we see throughout all of campaign 1 and even some of the later campaigns. Now, some of them are consistent gags that I think we're just going to see throughout the entirety of the series, like the fact that Vox Machina has a significant problem with doors. This is something that I think even if you haven't watched the original campaign, if you've played Dungeons & Dragons, you can probably relate to. Sometimes dice are just cursed and you are perpetually forced to not be able to overcome certain obstacles. And for Vox Machina in campaign 1, that had a tendency to be doors, and we've seen that in the first batch of episodes, and now the fact that the party cannot overcome a simple door is something that is even more in your face in the second batch of episodes. Some people may feel like it's a little bit heavy-handed, but for me, I thought that it was pretty hilarious and really made me reminisce not only about the first campaign, but about some of the campaigns that I have participated in where players just can't seem to overcome an obstacle that really shouldn't be that hard. Everyone is just rolling 1s or 2s, they're rolling too low to unlock a door, and eventually it just gets to a point where you say, all right, well, you can't get past the door, you need to find another way. And we see that in this show. And I feel like running gags like this are what is really going to solidify the fact that this is a Dungeons & Dragons show, not a typical fantasy show. It has really set itself apart in that way. It doesn't really align with most other animated fantasy shows that I've seen. Instead, it's really focusing on the fact that this is a D&D show. You can almost feel the players in the background role-playing out these characters, and I think that that was their goal, and if it is, they definitely accomplished it pretty well. This just feels like a D&D show, and that's awesome. It's also not very easy to pull off, and I feel like it's the reason why a lot of Dungeons & Dragons based shows and movies and even games kind of tend to flop for the audience, because the audience goes in hoping to see a D&D show, and instead of the typical gather your party and occasionally botch some rolls, you get what looks like a standard fantasy show with some D&D lore tossed in, and that's not really all that enjoyable to watch compared to what Vox Machina is offering us. Now, I do want to say that some of the humor in these episodes has started to fall flat for me. I enjoyed the humor in the first 3 episodes, but it feels kind of like it's become a little one note in some regards. In particular with the raunchiness of it, I'm not some sort of prude and I'm not a stickler for this kind of humor, and I also understand that not only is Critical Role very slapstick, but any D&D table is going to resort to some pretty slapstick and raunchy humor. I know that my table is absolutely no exception to that, but it gets a little bit old when you're watching a show and it just seems to be repeating the same joke over and over again. Specifically in regards to Scanlan, I feel like he's stopped being the well-rounded, lovable gnome that we all enjoyed in campaign 1 and is really just becoming the sex icon, and that's pretty much all that he is at this point, and I'm not really a big fan of that. I know he has a lot more depth than that, and a lot of that was explored in campaign 1, particularly after the Chroma Conclave arc, so I'm hoping that we can see a little bit more well-roundedness to Scanlan rather than him pretty much just repeating the exact same gag over and over again. We did get a couple of character moments with him in this, but for the most part, he's really just wound up being there to be the raunchy character in the group, and that's kind of starting to lose its humor for me. It was funny at first, but I'd like to see them start moving away from that. In further praise, I want to talk about the visuals of the show. The visuals have gotten so much better in this next batch of episodes than they were in the first 2. The visuals were one of the reasons why I docked a few stars from the first 2 episodes of the show. Now that we're in episodes 4, 5, and 6, I think that we're getting a little bit more consistency in regards to the quality of the animation and the artwork of the show, and it it is much better in these episodes than it was in the first batch. In particular, some of the gore and some of the monsters were just awesome. Especially in that first episode, they really did not hold back when it came to both the animations and the monster design and the gore, the violence. All of it was really well done and just fantastic. Some of the best fighting scenes that I have seen in animation in a while. Some of it probably stands up to the likes of Invincible, which I also really enjoyed. The combat in here is just awesome. They did a great job with it, and the first episode, I really got a solid sense of space where everyone was at and some of the abilities that were being used, as well as just the general fear that they really wanted you to feel in episode 4. I think I said episode 1 earlier. Episode 4. In the first episode of this batch, there is a lot of horror and a sense of fear and tension that is present pretty much throughout the episode, and they did a great job executing that. I really enjoyed it. We also later on get a very D&D-esque encounter. I believe it's in episode 5 that we get this, and it really feels kind of like a random on the road encounter, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very creative encounter, and I thought that it was a lot of fun. The monsters in that were also really awesome, as was the gore and just the general animation in that scene. They have really stepped it up for this, and the sheer horror that they are leaning into with the animation and art style is definitely working in the show's favor, in my opinion. I do have one last minor complaint that I want to get to before I talk about my overall rating, and that's that in the 4th episode, we had a bit of plot convenience toward the end of it that I didn't really like. There just hadn't been a lot of setup for the moment that we get, or any real hints that I'd seen. This was something that was actually possible, and it kind of resulted in it feeling a bit like a Deus Ex Machina. Future Terran interjecting here, I did rewatch it recently, and in episode 4, there is a very quick moment where they sort of foreshadow the Deus Ex Machina situation toward the end of episode 4. I definitely appreciate that they did that, and just wanted to make sure that I noted that here. They did somewhat foreshadow it. There's a really quick moment in the episode that I think is a little bit easy to miss in relation to what happens toward the end of it, and I'm glad that I went back, rewatched, and noticed that. So I was wrong before with that. And that actually is enough for me to bring up my rating. So let's get to my overall rating. But before I talk about my star ratings for each of these 3 episodes, I just wanted to let you know that you can like, comment, and subscribe all for free. Who would have thought? It really helps me out when you do any of those things. All of them help boost the video and help me out as I try to grow this channel. So I greatly appreciate the time that you spend doing that. And now that you're done doing it, right? You did it. Now that you're done, I will get to my overall rating of episodes 4, 5, and 6 from the second batch of The Legend of Vox Machina. So my least favorite of these 4 episodes is the 4th one, and I'm going to go ahead and give it 4 stars. It was pretty good for the most part, but that ending really just didn't land well for me. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't pick up on the foreshadowing they did in the episode earlier, but yeah, there is some foreshadowing about what is to come toward the end of episode 4, and I'm really glad that I went back and rewatched it. So yeah, 5 stars to episode 4. Episode 5 was awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was really cool, and I'm going to go ahead and give it 5 stars. I thought that it was well executed. There was a bit of humor that didn't really land well for me, but for the most part, this is a great episode. Now, episode 6 I enjoyed even more, but I don't do ratings above 5 stars, so I'm going to go ahead and give episode 6 5 stars as well. This had some really cool moments and is my favorite episode of The Legend of Vox Machina so far, and if this is giving us a taste of some of the awesomeness we're going to get to see in the next 6 episodes of season 1, I cannot wait for the next batch. So there you have it, my ratings for The Legend of Vox Machina episodes 4, 5, and 6 in batch number 2. I can't wait for the next batch, and I will make sure that I get my review out to you as soon as I have finished watching episodes 7, 8, and 9. I can count those. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out this video. If you would like to see another video from me, you can do so by clicking up here. And until next time, bye.